And we're live. Okay, hi DJ.
Hi, Sophia.
This is our new series called Hashtag Making It Work. This new video series is created to inspire, and we want to connect with our people in our community working from home and adapting to our new shelter-in-place orders. Pick first guest. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name's DJ. I've been a member of Hacker Lab for quite a few years now, almost as long as it's existed. But I'm a freelance maker. I make a variety of things, but I like to say that I'm a digital fabricator. That means I like to create 3D digital models of things and use CAD tools so that I can use CNC machines to do all the work for me. So 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC routers, that kind of thing. But I also do a lot of hand soldering because I like to stuff electronics into stuff to make it come to life.
Awesome. So I am curious. I want to know what your workflow is like. So show us your workspace. If you have some current projects you're working on right now, show us maybe a little background on that. Take it away.
Absolutely. So I have a studio. It's more that I live in a workshop that happens to have a bed rather than I have a studio that happens to have a workshop. So I have things that are a little bit in disarray. It's always important to have a wide range of materials and tools. So lots of small hardware and electronic components. You caught me on filming day. I make videos for an electronics distributor, so I've got my lighting equipment set out. But this is one of my walls of gadgets, just things that I've made over the past couple of years. Let me try and frame this. It's pretty awkward to not hold the camera naturally. So just some of the small gadgets and gizmos. Like, now this is a fun one. People always like this. It's a rotary cell phone, so it's got a working rotary dial in it. That's a really fun one. Let's see. Woo, I'm dropping stuff. So I've got my computer workstation. Nothing too fancy there. Electronics workstation, and what I'm now calling my robot wall. So I've been doing a lot more animatronics lately. That's something I'm really interested in getting better at, and just for fun. But I still make videos out of these. My most recent build was Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, and I love her to death. She's quite a bit bigger than I thought. She's almost a meter tall. Let's see. So I've got one of my workbenches right here. I've got a project that I'm finishing up for my employer. This is the beginnings of like a robotic tentacle, although it's lacking its tendons right now. So this is something that's got a little bit of everything, 3D printing and laser cutting, and robotics. So it's 100% what I love to do. Let's see, personal project, a little bit hard to see because there's nothing built. I'm building a cyber deck, which is basically like a weird laptop, and it's from a cyberpunk novel by, William Gibson. I should have known this. So this is first half tool wall, just organized pegboard, steel pegboard, which I really love. And now we're going into the greenhouse. It's not really a greenhouse, but I like to call it that. So this is my outdoor shop. Just got a little SLA resin 3D printer, some paint, lots of glue. Try to keep everything organized, and it's in a metal cabinet. It's not a real flammables cabinet, but it should burn down less. Woodworking equipment, not a whole lot. I don't really do a whole lot of woodworking, but I need it sometimes. I recently picked up a laser cutter, so I've got my own laser cutter. I've got I don't have enough surfaces, so it's also the paint drying area. But this is my pride and joy. I used to teach laser cutting classes at the Hacker Lab back in the day, so it's nice to finally have my own. Just a little metal lathe, and last but not least, a CNC router. I try and keep everything somewhat dust-free and protected from the sunlight, but it's a constant challenge to keep everything organized. So that is my space. That is my life.
Hey, that is super impressive. You're like a one-man show. You got all the gadgets to do like everything.
Yeah, it's taken a long time to get here, but I'm very lucky and very grateful to have, you know, the skill set and the opportunity to use these kinds of tools, because, you know, I started off in makerspaces, so I wouldn't have this opportunity if I didn't start off at makerspaces and hackerspaces like the lab.
On that, I want to know how it's been for you lately and how you've approached your new workflow, or is this just like now seeing your workspace where you like, done deal, it's fine, I can stay home, I can continue doing my own thing here?
It's definitely been a challenge because I have been lucky enough to work from home for the past 2 years. So my work schedule didn't really change, but everything does change when it's mandatory to work from home. Like most people, whenever I inevitably get bored or sick of my space, I rearrange all the furniture because I'm like, oh, now I live somewhere new. So I've rearranged the layout of my shop and my furniture in my studio like 5 times in the last, 6 months, just because I'm like, I gotta get somewhere else. So that's how I figured that out.
Actually, I'm kind of curious about how you got started in your field altogether.
I don't know. I was always obsessed with, I watched a lot of movies when I was a kid, and I loved like Back to the Future or like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like, I'm pointing at movies like that because, like, there's always like the quintessential like 1980s weird scientist who's got all these sort of, gadgets and inventions, and that aesthetic was just so cool to me. Or Terminator. I love the Terminator movies, so I'm like, oh, like, it's not really scary. I'm just like, wow, that's such a cool robot. I want my own Terminator. And very slowly, I picked up electronics. Like, I got like a kit at like a book fair when I was probably like 12 years old, and I built it. And I didn't know how any of it worked, and I didn't really learn anything until I went to college. And I actually didn't study engineering in college. Technically I did for a semester, but it was awful. Like, I realize now that I'm very much more an artist. I like hanging out with artists, more so than engineers. And that's not a slight to engineers. It's just, you have your different social groups, and I like my social group to be artists who do engineering. So that's where I realized things were a lot more interesting, because I guess this kind of leads into it, but I did a lot of theater and acting in high school and college, but then I realized it's fun to be an actor, but like building all the props and all the stage things, I'm like, that's so much cool. That's so much cooler. I realized like that was a lot of fun. I didn't actually do that for school, but I realized that, once that was an option, like, oh, maybe I should do something like that. But I've just been making things. I'm just driven to make things. So just been learning new skills. I'm, almost completely self-taught. So it's been a long journey, but that's where I'm at.
That's, I think, super inspiring for people who are maybe intimidated to try like woodworking or try like tinkering with electronics, any of that. So that's good to hear. I think you can definitely DIY and figure it out, or you have wonderful people like you affiliated with Hacker Lab to like help them in their progress.
It's such a weird thing, because when you say you're self-taught, it just means that you weren't formally taught. But what that doesn't mean is I didn't have dozens of really amazing people in my life who are willing to answer my questions about every little thing when it comes to like machines or designing. I learned a lot from the community, the maker community at large. So that's one of the best things about it, is it's filled with so many wonderful people.
What is a new favorite skill or hobby that you've taken up during quarantine? And this can be either totally irrelated to your craft, your skills, or super related.
It's totally unrelated. I got an inflatable kayak because for as long as I've lived in Sacramento, I have not been on the river. Like, I've seen it a million times, but my friends also have a kayak, so we've been out on the river a handful of times when we can. But it's it's amazing because there's so many like, one, it's isolated. It's like no one can be out in the river. No one can come up to you and cough on you or something. But like, it's just so beautiful and relaxing to be out. I've almost completely just been on the American River. But my friend and I are planning maybe like a kayak camping trip on the Sacramento River, a little bit more up north.
Ooh.
So it's been really nice to get outside and be in nature, because that was one of the other things I realized. It's like, as much as I love my shop, you know, I'm like, I don't spend nearly as much time outdoors, and I need to take advantage of that, because it's, you know, I took it for granted.
Do you sell any of your art or product? Do you have things like that?
No, not explicitly. Inevitably, people do email me for like commissions and things, and I have done private commissions over the past few years, but it's a lot of work. Like I've worked with people bringing things to market, and even making something like a kit is a lot of effort behind the scenes. And I just want to focus on, you know, what's next. I don't want to keep building the same thing over and over. Or just selling something like that. But I'm still considering it, you know. I try to share most of what I make. Like if I make something that's 3D, I'll give away the 3D model. If there's some code element, I'll give away the code. Just because like that's how I learned. It's like I looked at all this other stuff that other people shared. So
yeah,
you know, how can I not give away the same thing?
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Where can we find you on social media? Instagram, Facebook, or other?
Instagram and YouTube. So Instagram, my handle for everything is generally Mr. Volt. So I suppose there will be something I can give you to write it down as opposed to spelling it out loud. But
I'll like put it in like a little bubble, just like whoop.
We have the technology for that. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, so Mr. Volt on YouTube and Instagram, that's where I hang out.
This is like a final thoughts question. What would you say to the folks at home who are trying to make it work? People who are maybe feeling like stuck in a rut, you know, and we're all just kind of like in a balancing act and trying to learn a new skill. What do you think is a piece of inspiration that you've come across that would help them?
I guess, well, the practical one is, like I said about rearranging my furniture, is making your space work for you, because, you know, you should make everything as comfortable and as practical as possible. Like there's so many little things where it's always been like, oh, you know, it'll take an hour to rearrange this corner, but like I always lose this one tool or something. It's like, okay, why don't I just spend the hour and now everything's organized? Like I'm constantly making my life easier for myself so I can do things faster, and that way I can, you know, spend more time doing the things that matter, which is spending time with people. So I think that's the most practical tidbit of advice that I can offer, because it also involves staying at home and staying safe.
It does. It totally does.